Well, this morning I've got a treat for you. And before I release what I think God is saying and what God will do, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on promises. Almost 30 years ago, almost Brandon, October the 15th will be 30 years since God made a promise to me. I don't know if God has ever made a promise to any of you, but almost 30 years ago, God made a promise to me. And 30 years later, it is going to be fulfilled in just about 2 minutes. It hasn't yet been fulfilled. In 2 minutes, it'll be fulfilled. 30 years ago, everybody say with me, God never relinquishes on his word. It may take a year, it may take a minute, it may take a month. But every time God makes a promise, you can count on it. You take it to the bank, cash it in. It's worth billions. God never relinquishes on his promise. In fact, when God makes a promise, it can't fail because God himself cannot fail. If God's promises, Pastor Thomas, has failed, then the earth will collapse. It cannot. The earth is held by the promises of God. That's how simple it is for me. So 30 years ago, God made me a promise, and he told me, he says, your son is going to be saved, and he's going to preach the gospel. That's what God said to me. So I'd like to introduce you to my promise. Would you come?
Well, good morning, KICC. Well, I'd like to first introduce myself. My name is Daniel Hassan, and for those of you who do know me, I'm his son, the pastor. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm his son, one of three. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you, God, for using me in this house. But today, I'm not his son. Today, I am a messenger of the house. I'd like to open with a story from the Bible. It's an amazing story, guys. It's about a man named Mephibosheth. A man named Mephibosheth. In fact, Mephibosheth's story really starts when he was 5 years old. Now, Mephibosheth was the son of Jonathan, okay? The son of Jonathan. And Jonathan was the son of Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel. All right, so there's Mephibosheth, Jonathan, and then Saul. Now, when Mephibosheth was 5 years old, his father Jonathan and his grandfather Saul actually died. They died in battle during the Battle of Mount Gilboa, okay? Now, Mephibosheth's 5 years old. He doesn't know what's happening. He's 5 years old, but he's with his maid. He's with his maid. And a messenger comes, and a messenger sends word to Mephibosheth's maid. and lets the maid know that his father and his grandfather are dead now. They've died during battle. Now, Mephibosheth's 5 years old. He doesn't know what's going on. He's with his maid. So upon hearing this news, the maid panics. She panics. She's in a frantic. She picks him up as she deems this situation calls for safety. She wanted to protect him, right? Any maid would, I hope. But she picks him up, and she needed to protect him. She needed to protect Mephibosheth. So in a hurry, the maid picks him up, and she starts to run, okay? And as she's fleeing, she drops him. She drops him. And the Bible tells us that this caused Mephibosheth to become lame in both legs. Now, if you got your Bibles today, let's turn on over to 2 Samuel chapter 4, verse 4, and we can read it together. Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son who was lame in his feet. He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel, and his nurse took him up and fled. And it happened, as she made haste to flee, that he fell and he became lame. His name was Mephibosheth. Now, let's translate this. Mephibosheth, in fact, became broken. He became broken. He became broken. Now, later on in the Bible tells us that Mephibosheth now, who's a man, and he's broken, he's living in a town called Lo-Debar. Lo-Debar. Now, he's a man, and he's still broken. He's living in this land called Lo-Debar. Now, I'd like to illustrate Lo-Debar for you guys. Lo-Debar in Hebrew actually means a land of no pasture, a land of no life. In fact, Lo-Debar was a place of no governance. It was a place of isolation. The truth is, Lo-Debar was a place of disconnection. It was a place of separation. So imagine a land, no greens, nothing, no life, nothing. He's there, he's broken still, and he's a man, and he's there. And so he's there. Mephibosheth, in fact, while he's there, he's living the truth is he was living a shameful life. He was living a shameful life. He was living a life of doubt, a life of fear, guys. He's living there, and he's living in fear, absolute fear. He's living in doubt. The truth is, he was living in hiding. He's hiding because there's a new king now. There's a new king on the throne, right? So back in those days, when a new king takes the throne, what happens is that they kill off any heirs so that they can eradicate pretty much any claims to the throne. So there's a new king reigning now. There's a new king on the throne. And Mephibosheth has no idea who this king is, but he's scared. He's scared. Now, what Mephibosheth did not know is that the new king on the throne, his name was David. David. God's greatest king, David. David was chosen by God. In fact, David was a man like Jesus. He had the compassion of God. But Mephibosheth, he's still in Lo-Debar. He has no idea about David. He doesn't know that David is this good man, you know. He's thinking, oh, this new king's going to come. He's going to kill me out. I'm done. So he's hiding still. But what Mephibosheth also did not know is that David, King David, was like brothers with his dad, Jonathan. They were brothers. Now, it wasn't David that killed his father, but David took the throne. Now, Mephibosheth's there. He's in Lo-Debar. He's hiding from this new king, and the king's David. But he didn't know that David was his besties with his father, Jonathan. Besties. Mephibosheth there has no clue. In fact, David and Jonathan, they had a covenantal relationship. They were like brothers. Let's check it out. Let's turn on over to 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 42, and we can read it together. Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other. In the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever. Then David left, and Jonathan went back to town. So what we can say here is that David and Jonathan, they made a covenant to always have each other's back. Always. From generation to generation. As long as one of them were alive, they'd always have each other's back. Now, while David was king, he's sitting on this throne. Mephibosheth's still in Lodabar. He inquires. He inquires in his house. He inquires if there's anyone left of the house of Saul to whom he can show kindness to. Mephibosheth has no clue yet. Let's read it together. 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1. David asked, is there anyone left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness to? For Jonathan's sake. Now there was a servant of Saul's household named Ziba. They summoned him to appear before David, and the king said to him, are you Ziba? At your service, he replied. The king asked, is there no one still alive from the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake? Ziba answered the king, there is still a son of Jonathan. He is lame in both feet. Where is he? The king asked. Ziba answered, he is at the house of Machir in Lo-debar. He is in Lo-debar. You see, friends, as David searched for Mephibosheth, God is searching for you. God was searching for me. And you better believe he found me. So I'd like to tell you all my story. My story. I'd like to tell you all the story of when God found me. My story, it actually begins with my parents. My parents. Both incredible, but both imperfect. My dad and my mom were married for about 1.5 years before they had me. And when I was about 2 months old, my dad made a very big decision. A very big decision. He made a decision to follow God with all of his heart. And my parents had a lot of issues. A lot of issues. From what I heard, they were really on the brink of destroying each other's lives. And so he made this decision to follow God. So at 2 months old, my dad picks up and he walks away. I'm 2 months old, and you gotta hear me. I have no idea what's going on. These two did not even understand that the decisions they were making would affect my life, or how it would affect my life. And shortly after my dad left, my mom remarried. And then at the age of 4, when I was 4, she remarried again. So that's 2 more marriages after she was with him. After her first remarriage, she had a daughter, my sister, Celestina. Now, my sister was amazing. Growing up, she was amazing. She was really the rock I would lean on. In fact, she was all I had, right? I had nobody. And it was just me and her, young kids. The truth is, a lot of our relationships, a big part of our relationship, my sister and I, was built on the similarities we had. But we didn't even know it, but we know it now. So my dad's gone. My mom remarries twice, and I'm too young. I don't understand what's happening. I don't even know what marriage is. I don't know what relationships is. I don't know, girls, guys, you know. All I knew is that I had this sister by my side. Fast forward a couple years. I'm about the age of 10 years old. now. And this was, in fact, the biggest moment of my life, but I didn't know it. My mom, she used to work the night shift. She was a nurse. And so every night she would leave, me and my sister, young kids, we'd go and, we're young, we want to do foolishness. We'd go and watch TV in the middle of the night. And one night, my mom had called into work. And so she was home. So that night, we had no intention of turning on the TV because we would have got a whooping, serious whooping, if she caught us. But we did it anyways. Of course. We did it anyways. And we turned the TV on. And I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, they used to have those Christian infomercials where those guys are selling holy water, bro. Like, pay $30, you get a 3-pack, and you're blessed for life. You're blessed for life. You're blessed for life. You don't even need to come to church. You just buy that, and you can pay in installments too. You can. They just need your credit card. You're blessed for life. But there was this whole section of channels for all these Christian stuff, And me and my sister are flicking through these channels, and there's this guy preaching on the TV, and we flick past the channel. Flick past it. I didn't think anything. I don't want to see no guy sitting in a chair watching, talking. And so my sister says, Daniel, go back. Go back. Go back. I'm like, for what? She's like, just go back. So we went back to the channel. And she looks at me, and I look at her. And she's like, whoa, that guy looks like you. And I'm like, for real? He does look like me. I was tripping. I'm 10 years old, I'm tripping out. You guys, I can't, oh my goodness. But I still didn't think anything of it. Okay, it's just another brown guy, like he just looks like me. But man, we sat there and we're listening to this guy talk for like 30, 40 seconds, and I knew something was up. I knew it. I could feel it in my heart. I felt it. Because me back then, no, sir, I'm switching that again. Like, we ain't going back this time. But I knew in my heart, I knew it. I just knew it. There was something going on. So I woke my mom up at 3 a.m. And we used to live in a basement. So the basement was split into two sides. Me and my sister were on one side, and she was on the other side. And I wake her up. And I'm okay, I'm just take a risk. It's either I get a whooping or I don't. So she comes, and before I even get a chance to open my mouth, she looks at the TV and looks at me, and she starts to cry. She broke. She absolutely broke. I will never forget that. She broke. She couldn't even talk properly because of how broken she was by seeing this man on the TV. And before I could even ask her anything, she tells me that this man is your dad. This man on the TV is your dad. And like Mephibosheth, in that moment, I found myself broken. I found myself scared. I found myself in Lodabar. And the truth is about that moment, I didn't just find my dad. My father found me. And that's what happened. But in that moment, I didn't realize it. And so the next couple of years, I spent my life, I dedicated those years, man. I was like a detective. I spent those next couple of years of my life searching But I also spent those next couple years of my life rebelling. How could I live in this house with a woman who lied to me my whole life? But it was okay. Um, I spent my life searching. I spent my young days searching for this man. I wanted him. I wanted him. I needed to know who he was. I didn't want to see him on a TV. I wanted to stand in front of him. I wanted to know who he was. I didn't want to hear who he was from her mouth. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. And so now I'm in grade 5, okay? And I had this elementary school teacher. Her name's Beryl. I got to tell you this, guys. This is amazing. Beryl, she used to be so close to me. I used to come to school every day. Okay, I'm grade 5. I used to come to school. I used to tell her about my problems at home. she, she was like Dr. Phil at school, you know. But I used to tell her my problems, and she was so open. She would listen to me. She would listen to me. And so I told her. A couple weeks went by. I'm talking to her, and I'm telling her about my issues with my dad, and that I found out who my dad was. And this lady knew exactly who he was. In fact, they used to go to the same church at the same time I'm telling her these things. They used to go to GKM. I don't know what she used to do there, maybe an usher or something. But she was in that church with my dad at the same time I'm telling her about this. And man, do you know what she did one day? She gives me a book after school. I looked at her like she was crazy because I'm like, I'm not reading this book. Like, what are you doing? But she gives me this book. I'll never forget this. She gives me this book after school and she says, Daniel, turn to the back. You'll find everything you've been searching for. And I turned to the back when I got home. I got home and I turned to the last page because I'm not reading through it. And there it said, Asif Hassan and his phone number. And foolish me, I wasn't even looking around. My mom saw that. She took the paper and she ripped it up in front of me. I didn't even get a chance to memorize the number. But she ripped it up, and, don't get me wrong. My mother, she was a great woman. Amazing, amazing, amazing woman. Amazing, amazing. But she made one fatal mistake. She kept me from my destiny. She took that paper and ripped it up, and she kept me from my destiny. And it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. We all make mistakes because we don't see the bigger picture. She didn't see the bigger picture in that moment. In many, many ways, my mom feared that the outcome of the relationship I would have with my dad would be the same outcome she had with him. An abusive relationship. Abusive. You see, a wise woman once told me that we make mistakes because we're looking through the lens of fear and not through the lens of love. My mom was looking through the lens of fear. And what she didn't realize that it wasn't about me finding my dad. The truth is, it wasn't about me finding my dad. It was about us finding God. And she didn't realize that. She didn't see that. So my mom's, her fear was almost contagious. It was contagious, absolutely contagious. It just grew onto me, her fear. I became fearful. I feared her. I feared my friends. I feared my sister. Somehow I thought she knew. I feared my dad. I feared everything. But I'm still searching for him because I need answers. I want to hear the truth. So I spent every second looking for this man. I remember I'd be on my computer, the Yahoo dial-up, and I'm searching his name on every site possible. But you can't find anything. Now you can, but you couldn't back then. Um, and my mom spent every second trying to stop me. She spent every second trying to stop me. Everything she could do, she'd break the computer, she'd throw it out when she found out I would everything trying to stop me. Eventually, my behavior got worse. It went downhill. Downhill, guys, downhill. She had no choice at this point to call the very man she tried so hard to keep me from. So she calls him. And I was 13 years old when I met my dad and his wife for the first time. 13 years old. And it didn't last too long. Didn't last long at all, actually. I thought they were too religious. Church, God, what is all this? Too religious. And of course, I believed Satan's lies. I really thought this guy was putting on a show for me. That's what I thought. You know those moments when you think things are too good to be true? So then you call quits? You call quits? That was me. I started, after I met him and our contact cut to zero, I started to build a real anger towards him. He doesn't even know this, but I'm going to say it now. I started to build a big anger towards him. I was angry at him. I was angry. I was angry at him for leaving. I was angry at him for leaving and and building a new life without me. I was angry because I felt like he left me behind. I was angry and I was hurt. And so that anger grew towards him. The anger grew. And when I was about 17 years old, I met Jessica, who's my wife now. But I met Jessica at the age of 17. And at the time, she was just a crutch to hold up my emotions. She was just holding me up. She didn't even know. She knows now, but she didn't know at that moment. I was so broken. She was literally holding me up so that I wouldn't fall. After I met Jess, the contact with my dad was absolutely zero, nothing. By that time, my mom had 2 more children, and they're actually right here. My sister and my brother, these guys were everything to me when she had them. They made me feel wholesome. When I didn't have him, I had her. I had these 2, and these 3 gave me the attention I was crying out for. In fact, I'm there and I got my mom, I got my girl, I got my siblings, I got my boys, and I'm thinking, wow, man, I got everything. What? The truth is, I had nothing. I was still in Lodabar. I had nothing at all. I was living in Lodabar still. A couple years went by, and I found myself in massive amounts of trouble with the law, with people. There was one point in my life that I was facing multiple charges, multiple. In fact, that was the next time I saw him. When they had me in the handcuffs, he showed up, and the guy's laughing. He's laughing, I'm not joking. He shows up when I'm in handcuffs, and he's laughing. And man, I was pissed. I was so pissed. But at that point in my life, I am just on a roll, man. I'm ready to do it all by myself. It was horrible. I was living in fear. I was living in fear for my life. I was living in fear that my life wouldn't amount to anything more than bondage. I was so scared. I was scared of people. I couldn't even walk on the street in my city. There was things I did to people that I was just so scared that somebody would come back and do something to me or my family. And I couldn't do it. So here's where my life really took the turn. I outsourced my emotions now to drinking. To drinking. Now, it wasn't one drink for me. It wasn't one drink for me. 1 became 5. 5 became 10. 10 became 20. And 20 became me passed out in someone's house. And when I was tired of passing out, I outsourced my drinking to drugs. To drugs. I eventually started doing cocaine. A lot, church, a lot. I'd be holding bags in my hand. Bags, and I wasn't selling it, I was doing it. Bags, because I needed to get away. The drinking opened up a door to something else, which opened up another door. And in a sense, that drinking and those drugs felt like freedom to me. I didn't have to hear it from anyone. I didn't have to hear it from anyone else. I remember being in drug house after drug house. Back and forth between drug houses. I was actually kicked out of my house, my mom's house, every couple months. Every couple months she kicked me out. I was bouncing between friend's house, family's house, couches to couches. I remember one time I was living in Palace, and my living conditions were so bad that I'd have to leave the light on because I would sleep on the ground, and I used to watch mice jump over my feet as I slept. Literally, in my boxers. I spent Thanksgiving having a sausage from Metro and plain rice. That's how bad my living conditions were. I had $0, nothing. I really felt like I was done for, and this behavior progressively got worse. That was just the beginning of it. I eventually found myself in hospitals for suicide attempts. I tried to kill myself multiple times. In fact, the last time I tried to kill myself, they had me in the hospital, and they asked me if I was fit to go home. And my mom was there, actually. And we're both broken, but we both lied. And we thought that was saving me. I don't know I don't know what we were thinking. So we said no. But they wanted to keep me in that mental facility for 90 days at least, just to weigh my mental state. And we said no. And that night, after I left the hospital, I went straight to a bridge. I went straight to a bridge, and I stood on the ledge. And I was about to jump because I was fed up. I was exhausted. And as I'm about to jump, my friend grabs my arm and he pulls me back and he said, "What the heck are you doing?" And man, good thing he pulled me back, because I wouldn't be standing here right now. So after that, I left and I was house to house. And now there's so many points in my life where I think my life's about to take a turn. But then, man, the devil says, "Yo, you got to see this." So my mom gets into an accident, a catastrophic accident one night. And here's where it all really turned for me. This accident left my mom paralyzed. She paralyzed. Um, she was physically disabled, and so I I decided to come home, and I decided to come home and be with her. I decided to come home and be with her in an attempt to help her, but I couldn't even help myself. I wanted to help her, but I couldn't. I couldn't because she, just like me, was in Lodabar. She, just like me, was broken. She, just like me, was at a place of defeat. She, just like me, was in bondage, but I couldn't help her. But I thought I could. That's that superhero in me. I thought I could, but I couldn't because we were both at a place of defeat. So she couldn't handle me. She couldn't handle me. So she kicked me out one last time. One last time. And here's where it all started. She kicks me out, and it's winter. It's snowing. It's snowing, absolutely snowing outside. Absolutely snowing. It's pouring. I got running shoes on. I got 4% left in my phone battery, and I'm outside. And so I walk through this alley, and I walk to a park bench. And I'm sitting on this park bench. And I'm thinking to myself, what do I do? I'm about to die out here. I'm about to die out here tonight. I can't call Jessica because if I call her, then her mom's going to know who I am. Her dad's going to know who I am. Her sister's going to know who I am. They don't even know this story. This is the first time they're hearing this today. They're going to know who I am. They're going to know who I am. And so I didn't call her because I couldn't lay that embarrassment on top of her. I couldn't lay it on her. And so I'm sitting there and I'm pondering. I literally, I had nobody to call. And I hear a voice in my ear. And it says, call your dad. Why? Why would I call this man? You know, every single birthday growing up, I called him on my birthday and cursed him out. Every curse word in the book. Seriously. This is facts. I'm thinking in my head, why would I call this man? I can't. And even if I did, he's not going to answer. But I got a couple percent left in my phone. And so I call him. And he answers. Surprising enough, he answers. And he gives me clear instructions. He says, find your way to Scarborough. Now, at the time, I was in Brampton, but he says, find your way to Scarborough. I said, I can't. I said, I have no money. I don't have no Presto card. I got like 3% left in my phone. I have nothing. Come get me. He's like, I'm not getting you. Find your way. Get to Scarborough. And at the moment, I was angry, but I don't know what it was. But I stayed there overnight on that bench. And I found my way to Scarborough that morning. And we met at the pickup spot. And he picks me up. And I get in his car. This is the first time I've seen this guy in a long time. I don't even know if I want to see him. I don't know if he wants to see me. I don't know. It was so awkward because nothing was talked about in the car. It was like crickets in the car. It's like, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Good. Boom. Get to the destination now. So he's driving. We're both in the car, and we get. It was Faith, the Faith bookstore. And he brings me inside, and I hadn't met any of you guys. None of you I've met. This is my first time. I didn't even know it was a church. I thought we were going to read books. But he takes me. He says, follow me. I said, okay. And I'm standing now. He brings me in front of this girl. And I'm standing in front of this girl. And the girl is standing in front of me. And I'm standing in front of her. And he's standing there. And she's smiling. She's smiling. And I'm like, why is she smiling? I'm not smiling. He's smiling. Why is she smiling? And so I asked him. I said, who is this woman? You know what he says? This woman is Manju. Anyone who knows Manju, you can't get that smile off her face. But she's standing there. She has no idea who I really am. She has no idea where I came from, what I was doing. But she stands there with a smile on her face. And my dad looks at me and he says, you see this woman? You're going to be living in her house. You're going to be living in her house with her, her sister, and her parents. And he goes, and so I get to this house, and I'm in this room, and I'm in their house, and I'm in this room, and all I had was my monitor. I had the same gaming monitor for 15 years, and I brought that monitor with me. I had it, okay? Jess had it, actually. She had it at her house. And I'm in this basement, and I'm in this room, and Manju and Binju and Uncle Johnny and Auntie, I had nothing. I'm in this basement, and I have not a dollar, not a piece of food, nothing. I had a mattress, that's it. But this family, they blessed me. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. This family blessed me, and when I'm there, I'm in that basement, I got nothing. I'm still doing my nonsense now. I'm trying another way to do my nonsense while I'm living in this house, right? Just because I'm in Manju's house didn't mean I was in church. Just because I knew somebody in the church didn't mean I was in the church. And I'm there, and I'm living there, and while I have nothing, Jessica goes and tells her family, oh, Daniel's living in Scarborough now. So her mom and her dad, they start cooking me food. And they start bringing me this food. I don't even know them. They just know of me. I don't really know these guys. But they're cooking me food and bringing it to me every night. And her sister comes, and she comes with her sister, knocking on that back door. And they see me, and they bring me this food, and they sit with me, and they sit with me. And they talk with me. And just so many blessings started to flood in that I didn't even know I was receiving. I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it. You see, I didn't see it then, but I see it now. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. God was using so many people in this very house to bless me. And I hadn't even come to church yet. I'm in this basement. I haven't even come to church yet. I'm there for weeks, and I'm still trying to find a way to do my nonsense. I'm still trying to find a way to do my drinking, my drugs, right? My dad, we barely talked. I'm in this basement, but he never forced me to come to church. He never said, Daniel, come to church this weekend. You're the pastor's son. You got to come to church. He never said that to me, ever. Not once. Even up to today, he's never said that to me. Never. And so, even though I was in Scarborough, I hadn't yet come to this church. My dad never forced me to do that. However, he did insist that we go out to eat. Anyone who knows my dad, he got that sweet tooth. You know, this guy loves to eat. So he insists that we go out to eat, and that I bring Jessica. And so now we meet up with him, and we're sitting in this restaurant, Swiss Chalet. Swiss Chalet. I love Swiss Chalet. But we're sitting in Swiss Chalet. This guy sitting at the table, he's talking about God, all of this. So I pull out my phone, I start showing him a video of Benny Hinn. I'm laughing my head off, because I'm like, what is the Holy Spirit? How could these people fall to within just a touch? How could God impact them so much? What is this? But I'm still laughing because in that moment, God to me was a joke. In that moment to me, I didn't know who God was. So that's why he was a joke. In that moment to me, the Holy Spirit was a joke. I, I was a joke, actually. But he's there. And he says to me, he says, one day, Daniel, one day you will come to church and you will meet my God. He says, you will meet my God. And I said, no way, Jose. I'm not going, I'm trying to go get drunk on Saturday. You know what I mean? So I'm getting drunk on Saturdays. Sundays I sleep in. But that next Sunday, that Sunday morning, I woke up and I decided to come to church. Why? That's not like me. Sundays were for sleeping in because Saturdays were for drinking and doing drugs. Why would I decide? The truth is, after that meeting at Swiss Chalet, that dinner, I felt overwhelmed. I felt heavy. I felt confused. I felt curious. The truth is, I got a spoonful that night, but my spirit wanted the full meal. That's the truth. And I felt like I needed to come to this church and see who this Jesus was. So I put on my clothes. I get to the church, and you know the newbie vibes. I'm sitting in the back. I've got my head down, my hood on. I'm not making no eye contact with the front. Because if I make eye contact with the front, these guys are going to call me out or something. I've seen the videos on the internet. You know what I mean? So I got the newbie vibes, and I sit in the back. And there was an altar call. And the Holy Spirit was heavy in the house that day. My dad walks up to me, and he looks at me, and he grabs my hand. He grabs my hand, and he says, today, Daniel, you're going to meet my God. And after he said that, I have no idea what happened. I'm not even right now in this very moment, I cannot tell you guys what happened. I have no clue. But what I did know and what I did remember is that after 2 hours, I'm on the ground crying apparently for 2 hours, and I look up and I see Pastor Chan praying over me. I'm like, well, what is this lady doing? Why is she over me praying? Why is she praying? What is she doing? What am I doing? Why am I on the ground? I had the imprint of my watch on my head. I'm not joking. The imprint of all I felt was this big indent in my head. But what was she doing? And I didn't realize it now, but I realize it now. I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now. The chains were breaking free from my life. The Holy Spirit was giving me victory in that moment. I was about to experience real freedom, not freedom from the drugs. The devil couldn't give me freedom, only Jesus could. And I realized it in that moment. And so I surrendered my life to Jesus in that very moment. I realized that Jesus loved me and he was searching for me my whole life. This wasn't part of my message, but it came to me this morning on my way here. After I got saved, my little brother Avi, he came to me one day. And anyone who knew me knew I never used to wear t-shirts. I only used to wear long sleeves. And Avi came to me one day, little brother, he's a kid, this tall, and looks at me, he says, Daniel, what's that on your arm? He says, "What's that on your arm?" He says, "What's that on your arm?" I used to cut myself. I used to cut myself for everything I thought I was. One cut for being stupid, one cut for being dumb, one cut for being a bum. And Avi looked at me and said, "Daniel, what is that?" And I quickly pulled my sleeve down. And I said, "It's nothing, it's nothing." But now I wear the t-shirts. Now I wear the vest. Because I know exactly what it is. It's the enemy. And I've overcome this. These mean nothing to me now. These mean nothing to me. I've been broken free from that. God was searching for me. When I was in Lodabar, God was searching for me. When I was in the basement and I snapped past that channel with my dad on it, and my sister says, "Go back," God was searching for me. When I was in the drug house, locked up in the bathroom, hearing gunshots outside that bathroom door, God was searching for me. When I was in the jail cell, engraving my name in the side wall, God was searching for me. When I was on that park bench, and I asked, "Who do I call?" God was searching for me. He wanted me, He saw me, He knew me, and He had a plan for me. He made a way for me. And if He can do it for me, He'll do it for every single one of you today. Every single one of you. Jesus found me, and He restored me. What's important is that He restored me. He restored my broken dreams, my broken emotions, everything that was broken inside of me. Jesus restored. He restored that. He restored my broken relationships. He restored my broken emotions. Within seconds, within the blink of an eye, my emotions were from fear to joy. Who does that? Some people sleep, they go to sleep the one night and they wake up in the morning, they still have fear. Within seconds, my fear was gone. I felt at home. I was home. Now, if you got your Bibles, I'd like to go back to the story of Mephibosheth now. And I'd like to show you all something amazing. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 5 to 7. So King David had him brought from Lodabar, from the house of Machir, son of Amiel. When Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, came to David, he bowed down to pay him honor. David said, "Mephibosheth." "At your service," he replied. "Don't be afraid," David said to him. "Don't be afraid, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father, Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table." You see, Mephibosheth found grace and kindness from David. The same way I found grace and kindness from Jesus. And in this very house, from people who didn't even know me. Like Mephibosheth came to David, I too came to Jesus broken. And you too can come to Jesus broken. Being broken was just an event in my life. It wasn't my destiny. It wasn't my destiny. It wasn't. It wasn't God's plan for my life. It's not your destiny. Being broken and in fear is not your destiny. It's not your destiny. Being in fear and being in shackles and being locked up, that's not your destiny. Your destiny is freedom. Your destiny is victory, just like mine. You too can come to Jesus in your brokenness, with your imperfections, with your flaws, and with all of your mistakes, like I came to him. One big mistake I came to him, I felt I was. But Jesus said, no, you're not a mistake. You're mine. You're mine. You're a child of God. That's what he said to me. You're not a mistake. God doesn't care what you look like. He doesn't care where you are in life. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He just wants to give you a new life. He wants to restore what is broken in your life. What he did for me, he'll do for you guys. He'll do for anyone on this planet. Jesus has been looking for you all. He's been looking for you, for anyone that's broken. He's been looking for you. I invite you all to come to the Lord. I invite you to come to the Lord. Yeah. That's my story, guys. That's my story.